Thank you for joining us. This is part of the Canadian Association for Equality's monthly lecture series, which touches on a wide variety of topics related to men's health and boys, men's, and fathers' issues. We have basically three big areas of concern. One has to do with fatherlessness and providing resources for fathers to have as full and meaningful relationship with their children, both in the nuclear family and then if there is a family breakup, that's of particular concern to us. The other area has to do with boys and looking at boys' educational achievements or underachievements in the Canadian school system. And the third area is men's health, looking at mental health, looking at physical well-being, all sorts of things there. Where you are now is a men's health center. We do peer support, we do one-on-one therapy and counseling. We're starting a fathering initiative in October, specifically again geared at fathers after separation and divorce. Are you okay there, Andrew?
I will be.
So that's some of the programs that we offer, and then one of the big programs that we do, one of the flagship programs, is our Legal Assistance Clinic. And I'm very pleased to be joined tonight by Rehan Khalil, who is the facilitator, the primary facilitator of that Legal Assistance Clinic. And he works with our legal team to provide that weekly service largely to men, right here every Monday night at 6:30. So that might be something that interests some of you. We'll certainly talk a little bit more about that. Before I introduce him, I'll just also mention that we do have a sign-up sheet here, which I will place back on that shelf by the entrance. If you enjoyed tonight's event, you want to get reminders about upcoming events, then please sign up. We send out about one email every week and a half, so it's not used all that frequently. The other thing I should say is we do have brochures as well that go into more detail on all the various programs. It looks like this. There's a few stands on the various shelves at the back there. You can grab one of these after the event is done. So let me go ahead and introduce Rehan. I'm really pleased that he's agreed to give this particular talk. He's one of our board members. He's been an important volunteer and contributor for some time. And as I say, he runs our Legal Assistance Clinic. Rehan is a Mississauga-based lawyer. He provides legal services in a wide variety of areas: personal injury, criminal, family law, employment, real estate, civil litigations, etc. He also teaches at Seneca College, and as is probably clear by now, he has a strong interest in the legal issues that are faced by men and fathers. He works with many men from the South Asian communities of Mississauga, and I think you speak a variety of languages as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Including Punjabi and Hindi. And I should also say that good timing to have him speak. We're actually looking at setting up a small office in the Peel region, just at the border between Brampton and Mississauga. So that's going to be of service to the communities there and specifically South Asian communities as well. So with that, I'm going to welcome Rehan to talk about the stories from our first men's legal clinic here in Toronto. Rehan.
Thank you. So I'd like to, first of all, thank everybody for coming out this evening. And I'd also like to thank all the volunteers at CAFE. I know that you're all putting in a tremendous amount of work here for a movement that we all feel very passionately about. I also want to thank, and I know they're not here this evening, the team of lawyers that we have that have volunteered with their personal time to CAFE. For an organization that's opened up just under a year, we have approximately 8 to 10 volunteer lawyers that are either attending on the Monday night Legal Resource Assistance Center, or they are providing strategic advice to CAFE in the back. So we don't see them that often, but they're there, and I really want to thank all of them. I know how valuable their time is. At the moment, we have a new lawyer that's joining us in the fall. We also had another new lawyer just join us about a month ago who is a senior counsel at a major Canadian corporation. We have Mr. Fox, who has spoken at various CAFE events, who has a tremendous amount of experience. I met him for the first time Monday night. So I'm very pleased with the work that they're doing. As Justin mentioned, I thank Justin for the introduction. My name's Rehan, and I've been helping out with the Monday Night Legal Resource Clinic. Justin asked me a few months ago to say a few words, and I'm going to be honest, Justin knows that I also kind of stay in the shadows here at Cafe. And I asked him, I said, well, are any of those hippie protesters going to show up? And there was just some silence on the other end, and he just said, well, I can't guarantee they won't. So I am glad that that didn't happen, and I'm glad to see all of you here. And I do apologize for the heat. I might get a bit humid in here, but we're good. Okay, it might be harder to hear me. Anyways,
Just gonna turn the fan on.
sure, yeah. I thought for a while about what I wanted to say to people about here, what we're doing, and the best way that I thought I could describe the work was to simply share stories with all of you. So rather than get into legal jargon that people might not want to hear, or rhetoric, I thought the best way is to just simply talk about some of the stories of the people that have come in here to Cafe, and individuals who I have met in my professional experience as a lawyer. I want to first start off, though, by mentioning with emphasis that here at the Canadian Association for Equality, the work that we're doing is not just related to men. That the issues that are affecting these men directly affect the women in their lives. There is a blog post on our website, I believe it's entitled Calling All Women, where we are actively encouraging women to come out and to support us. And the reason is as follows. If a man is falsely accused of domestic violence, he might call his sister. It might be her who gets the call late at night from a distraught brother. I'm in jail. You need to come tomorrow morning and you need to bail me out. That sister might poke her husband in his sleep. Hey, cancel work tomorrow. We gotta go to court. It might be their first experience with court. And it's likely that that evening, that sister will probably toss and turn in her sleep. And the next morning, it will be her who will show up to court. Very often, the calls that criminal lawyers receive are not just from the individual who is charged, but very often it's from family members, loved ones. That morning, it will be her who might try to find a lawyer, and it will be her who will try to arrange the bail conditions. And it won't end there. It will be her and her family that will be responsible for ensuring that that man who is charged with domestic violence maintains his bail conditions. And it doesn't end there either. It will very likely be her who will have to attend at his house to get his belongings, because he won't be able to go near his belongings. He won't be able to go near his house. Here's another example of how women are directly affected by the issues we talk about here at Cafe. If a father is not able to see his children, then it is his mother who is grandmother to those children that is alienated. Then it is his sister who is aunt to those children that is alienated. And it is his niece who is cousin to those children that is alienated. The point that I'm trying to make is that here at Cafe, these issues affect not just those men, but directly the women in their lives. We have received calls not just from men here at Cafe, but from concerned mothers, concerned sisters, and in some cases, even new partners. I'm very happy to see that there are women in the audience here today. And those of us here at Cafe, we're also equally pleased. I believe we even have a few board members that are women. And we want to continue to see that grow, because with your help, we can continue to hopefully make incremental changes in the system that we are looking at. Before I get into some of the stories, I also just want to talk a little bit about domestic violence itself. As I mentioned, it's hot in here. I don't do good. I don't do well in heat. I'll keep my cool.
Take off your jacket?
Ah,
Yeah, feel free. Take your jacket off.
I'll keep it on to maintain the professionalism.
It's after hours.
First and foremost, it is this government's position that men and women experience domestic violence differently. I would disagree with that statement. This could be considered my opinion. But a slap to the face is a slap to the face. Having a plate thrown at your head or having a knife thrown at you, I don't see any difference in that. Very often we are presented with the portrayal of a raging lunatic standing over a bloodied, battered spouse. I'm not going to deny that that might not happen. But what I want to emphasize is that domestic violence happens, and yes, it can happen from both ends. I'm not sure how or why the government decides that classifying one person's pain from another is relevant. Because again, a slap to the face is a slap to the face. A punch in your nose is a punch to your nose. And I think most people would say any one of those things would hurt. I also hope here at Cafe, as we continue to grow, that we're able to review the domestic violence statistics that are presented to us on a regular basis. The statistics that are used to justify additional programs. I'm not a fan of statistics. Maybe you are. But I typically find I don't know where these statistics come from. Who's generating them? Are they institutions who rely on these statistics and whose funding is contingent on these statistics? We're often presented with domestic violence statistics that show that men are the aggressor. Do these statistics take into consideration those charges that were acquitted? Do these statistics take into consideration those charges that were withdrawn? I don't know. I'm hoping in the coming months and years that we at Cafe will be able to review these statistics. And I hope at Cafe we can show and demonstrate that domestic violence can happen to anybody. I want to now turn to the topic at hand, which is minority men and their experiences primarily in the criminal and family justice systems. This is my opinion, but it seems our organization at times has been criticized that we are somewhat concerned with the changing of the old guard. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. Within the few short months that we have opened our Monday Night Legal Resource Center, we have had men attend whose ethnic ancestry or heritage is of Asian, South Asian, Middle Eastern, African, Caribbean, Indo-Caribbean, and South American. In fact, one night I was kind of surprised. It was myself and 4 other brown guys. And we heard somebody coming up the stairs. I said, oh good, somebody's joining us. There was a knock at the door. The guy that came in was Nigerian. I looked around and I realized at that time that the issues that Cafe is looking to talk about are affecting all of us that live here in the Greater Toronto area. These men are your neighbors, They are your friends. They could be your co-workers. They could be your employers. They could even be members of your family. With many of these men, they come from backgrounds where discussing domestic violence against men is something you don't talk about. Okay? Many of them are ashamed. They're embarrassed. Many of these men are also deeply distressed. For them, participation in their culture and the practice of their faith is a collective issue. Muslim men and fathers who find themselves distressed on the holy day of Eid because they don't have their kids with them. Indian men who are looking to celebrate Diwali, but their kids aren't there, and all they want is a telephone call from their kid. With these men and the ethnic backgrounds that they come from, their extended families play an incredible role in their lives. Kinship is extremely important. For many of these men, their families will attend with them at criminal court. Their families will attend with them at family court to provide them with support. Their mothers, their brothers, their uncles will speak of how they see great distress in their brother. Recently I read an article where CAFE was being criticized. And the reporter wrote, "Who is CAFE speaking to? A group of minority, angry men? Well, let me take your kids from you. Let me wrongfully accuse you of a crime. Let me tell you that now you have to pay me not only child support, but spousal support. And let me see how happy you'll be." I think I'd be in good company if I said that we all value and cherish the relationships that we have with our children. So many of the men that have attended at our center have discussed how the policies of family courts have caused them to not be able to see their kids, in some cases at all. Two men, one of South Asian descent, one of West Indian descent. One of them has not seen his son since he was 12 months old. It is now 14 years. The other man has not seen his 3 children in over 15 years. Yeah, these guys are going to be kind of angry. Okay? I'd like to then turn to some of the stories that I'd like to share with all of you. It was very difficult to decide what stories to share. First and foremost, minor facts have been altered to protect the identity of the individuals and their families. Originally, I had a couple of stories, and literally within the last 48 hours, I received 2 separate calls, not from clients, not from prospective clients, but 2 separate calls from 2 people I know, who did not know I would be coming here and speaking this evening. I want to start off with just the 2 stories they told me. This is just within the last 48 hours. The first was a story of a young couple from Pakistan who, I'm not sure how long they've been here, recently got into an altercation with each other. The woman, the wife, admitted to attacking the husband physically. The man attempted to stop her by holding her wrists. This didn't work. It was the man then that called 911. The police arrived, and the wife, who is not that skilled in English, from what she could recall, was told to sign a piece of paper. Subsequently, her husband was arrested and taken away. The wife, on noticing this, became extremely distraught, attempted to tell the police that this was all a big mistake, but it's too late. As all of you know, once that call is made, it's too late. I know some of the other lawyers that speak on behalf of CAFE have mentioned the police also have a mandate to proceed further. The law enforcement's concern is, if we don't do anything today, tomorrow if something worse happens, where are we going to be in trouble? What's interesting about this scenario is that the story was relayed entirely from the wife. It was her who wholly admitted to the individual that it was her who physically attacked her husband. Now she is wondering, what can I do to help my husband? In so many of these situations, what will often happen after a domestic violence charge, the man goes home. He just wants to sleep in his bed. Come home. We can be a family again. Okay. Let's try it again. But now things are different. He has explicit legal conditions where he is not to be there. It could be a simple trip to No Frills. They could get into an argument. If the police are called or they attend, he's toast. Because he's in breach of his bail conditions. So many of the situations that we have seen here at CAFE, that I have seen in my professional experience, and the stories that I have had relayed to me from my colleagues who practice criminal law, demonstrate a pattern where very often these men will go home. Who doesn't want to sleep in their bed? Who doesn't want to just give it one more try? It's very different, because now it's dangerous. The second story that I heard just this morning from a colleague, again, who did not know I was coming to speak here. A young couple, South Asian, who met a few years ago and were casually interacting with each other. One thing led to another, and she became pregnant. The man decided to be a father to the child, and the two collectively decided that they would raise the child together. Things didn't work out. He began to notice peculiar signs to her that eventually evolved into a situation that he couldn't take anymore. They had one child, a boy. On his departure, his partner commenced family law proceedings. In her family law material, she tried her best to hurl every possible allegation that she could. Surprisingly, in this scenario, the family court judge didn't really buy it. So now a new tactic was developed. On one occasion, the man went to go pick up his son, or I believe he was dropping him off, after a visitation. His partner, his wife or his girlfriend, I'm not sure, but his partner, came out onto the street and started screaming and yelling at him, swearing at him. He was somewhat accustomed to this behavior, and he thought, I just got to get out of here. He's in his car, he's got the keys in, and it's on. Okay, he's parked with his foot on the brake pedal. She comes over and says, if you don't give me more money, forget seeing your kid. He knows that the best thing to do is to just leave. Remember, the car's on. He decides to pull away. She's got her hand on the steering wheel. She falls, hurts herself, Cops are called. He's charged with assault, I believe. She alleged that he was trying to drag her. That wasn't good enough, though. Why not seal the deal on this? He's already charged now with assault. She decided that a sexual encounter that they had in 2011 was suddenly non-consensual. What I want to remind all of you, though, is after 2011 they had a regular sexual relationship. But it was now, at this point, that she decided to raise this incident. In 2011, I was sexually assaulted by him. So now not only is he charged with assault, he's charged with sexual assault. When fathers face these types of criminal charges, very often they are on bail conditions, they're living with somebody else, and very often they're hit at the same time with family law proceedings. In the first 6 to 9 months, many of these men can end up spending anywhere between $2,000 to $10,000 on legal fees and moving expenses. Go see a criminal lawyer, he or she's going to charge you $2,000 to $3,000. That's just preliminary. Go see a family law lawyer, he or she's going to charge you $2,000 to $3,000. Preliminary retainer, unless there's an urgent motion that has to come forward. Many of them are sleeping on the sofas at their mom's place. This has a direct effect on their employment and their mental well-being. Of all the men that attended at our center who would identify from a minority background, all self-reported mental health issues, with depression as being the first. Of all the men that attended at our center, almost all, I would say, almost all, that were of a minority background, they reported being physically attacked by their spouse. Of all the men that attended at our center from minority backgrounds, almost all reported that the Children's Aid Society and the Office of the Children's Lawyer was involved in their case. All of them collectively reported that the Children's Aid Society failed to take their side of it, failed to take or consider their position, failed to review any audio or video they had of their spouse being either abusive to them or even abusive to their children. In an overwhelming number of the situations that have come to CAFE here, the men reported that the CAS's investigation of them would result in final reports and conclusions that were radically exaggerated. One man gave the example of how a worker at CAS asked him if he drinks alcohol. He said, "Yeah, sure. On Friday evening I'll have beers." He was surprised to see the report come back and saying, "frequently consumes alcohol." In many of the situations, for the men that have come to see us, CAS has failed to consider their version of events. With the assistance of CAS and the criminal charges already stacked against them, these men face considerable hurdles. Family law forms, such as the Affidavit for Access, I believe it is, explicitly asks the applicant if they have, I believe it's been charged or convicted of a criminal offense. If we take the example of the man who was charged with domestic violence, who has now gone back to his home because he wants nothing more than to be with his family, who's now been picked up for breaching those conditions and picked up again, I think you can all imagine what a third-party judge would think when he sees that on paper. This man is going to look like a violent, crazy psychopath. can't control his urges. He's got to go back. But that's not always the case. I want to turn to a different story. This is of a man from Afghanistan. A man who came here at an early age and built himself a pretty good life. Good business. He's not married. I'd say he's in his early 40s now. Okay? Not a bad looking fellow. There's a reason why I mentioned that. Tired of the dating scene, he found a different way to satisfy his personal, intimate needs. He found somebody online. The relationship is slightly unorthodox. Some would refer to it as the sugar daddy relationship. But to him, it was finding a young woman that he enjoyed spending time with. And she enjoyed spending time with him. There's a catch, of course. A small compensation fee. For some, this might be distasteful. Others might say this is immoral. I want you to move aside from that. And I do want you to remember, these were consenting legal adults. Okay? I will refer to them as a couple because they engaged in activities that were like a couple. This couple was together for maybe about 1.5 years. During that time, the young lady and the man grew close to one another. She started to learn a lot about his personal and financial affairs. When they spent time together, they'd watch a movie, cuddle on the sofa, they'd split a pizza, have a glass of wine. All the stuff that people do in a relationship. One catch, she was paid at the end. The idea was that he was helping the young person. Again, I want you to move away from that thought, okay? A few months into this relationship that's working out fairly okay, she mentions, hey, I got a renting issue, okay? The rent's being increased where I'm at. I got to increase your rate. Ah, are you serious? Frustrated, he decides to agree. He's familiar with her. He feels comfortable with her. Fine. Okay. I'll pay the extra fee. A few more months go by, and she comes to him. Hey, guess what? I got to increase the fee again. Why? I got more clients. Okay? I got to make it worth my while. All right, I guess so. Sure. What the hell? Right. A little frustrated, but he decides, okay. Again, he's familiar with her. Way too much work to go out and find someone else. It's okay. Now, at some point at the year mark, he receives a call on a sunny Sunday morning from her. Oh, hi. Surprised to hear from you. He's sort of excited, right? He's happy to hear from her. We have to talk. What's up? I'm pregnant. Ah, that's a problem. How do you know it's me? Screw you, is what she says, and starts telling him off. He becomes, first he's shocked, and he steps back and says over the phone, says, well, I'm not the father, okay? We both know that you're with others. She started telling him off, okay? He's starting to get nervous. I think for most people, suddenly being told that there might be a father or a mother is shocking. But that wasn't the nuclear bomb. The nuclear bomb was when she said, if you don't sell one of your homes and give me the money, I will go to the police and tell them you raped me. He's like, what are you talking about? What are you kidding me? She says, no. The sexual positions that we engage in, which by the way were normal, okay, there's nothing out of the ordinary here, right? I didn't agree to them. Are you kidding me? What about all the hundreds of text messages between the two of us? You know, I love you. Okay, come over. I enjoyed last night. Can I see you again? He's trying to bring these points up. She just consistently tells him, screw off. If you don't do what I'm telling you, I'm going to call the cops. He hangs up the phone. Calls someone. Realizes, what am I going to do? Go to the cops? My word against hers? Oh yeah, that's going to work. Right? What do? He receives some good advice. Call her back. Tell her you'll be there for her. Tell her, I want to take you to the first doctor's appointment tomorrow. Tell her, whatever decision you make, I'll stand next to you. I'll support you. This totally threw her off. Okay? Calls her back, tells her this. Hangs up the phone. For the next month and a half, he waits. And every time the phone rings, he freaks out. When the cops call, they call unknown number. So every time an unknown number comes through, he freaks out. But guess what? Neither the cops called, nor did she. It wasn't real. A quick online search of this young individual reveals that she has a social media profile with probably close to 50,000 followers. Unless you're a verified celebrity or politician, I don't know how you get 50,000 followers. The content on the profile is interesting, where it's subtle public relations for the quote-unquote business she runs. This young individual today might not have executed her plan, but guess what? She's smarter for it as well. And tomorrow, she might execute that plan. That man still lives in fear, even though it's been quite some time. This has affected his ability to function on a regular basis, as he is now so concerned that he can be accused of sexual assault so easily. I want to turn to another story of a man who visited our center. I'll describe him as South Asian. This man came from a very wealthy family in India. So wealthy that they had servants and drivers and an estate. He thought, I want to try something different. I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to take my new bride to Canada. Why not? Why, Dad? Are you leaving all the millions here? Yeah, I'm going. Why? I'm going to go to Canada. Good luck to you, buddy. So he comes to Canada with his new bride. And they have a daughter. Probably around 13 or 14 now. And he begins to witness bizarre behavior from his wife. Behavior that starts to escalate. Starts off with emotional abuse. I've noticed that the public makes fun of men who experience domestic violence. But yet we know that the definition of domestic violence includes emotional violence. On a regular basis, this man, like so many of the other men that have come to see us, was told that he was a loser. You suck. You can't hold a job. On a regular basis, told of how his family was horrible, how his mother was a whore, over and over. I think most people are kind kind of upset. Then, of course, it escalated to physical violence. He, like the other story, did what's a lot of men end up doing in these situations. Stop it! Stop it! Okay? You're hurting me! No, I'm not. Stop it! You're hurting me! No, I'm not. Okay? You're hurting me! I'm calling the cops. What do you mean you're calling the cops? Should pick up the phone, call the cops. Okay? Cops come, arrest him. I'm going to describe his work as that of, let's say he works in finance. Okay? There's nice clothes to wear. He is now not allowed to go home. And he spends a significant amount of his time while being on bail in a men's shelter. He doesn't have any family here. He's the sole breadwinner, which means he can't afford to stay in a hotel every night. So he stays at a shelter. And he described it as being hell. Here's a man who comes from a wealthy family in India. And as he discussed his time at being at the shelter, he cried. He said, I don't know what my parents would think of me if they knew I was sleeping in this shelter. So what's up now? I went back. Why? He received a peace bond. Many men, fathers, who are charged with domestic violence will end up receiving a peace bond. It's sort of the, don't do it again. Many of the men will walk away thinking, oh, it's okay, right? Like, I'm not going to get a record. Ah, you're not going to get a record. But it's a peace bond. Okay? So it's kind of like, yeah, it's the first time, so it's okay. He goes back to his wife. Where else is he going to go? But now, he lives in constant fear. Because he knows that if anything happens and the police come this time, he's in bigger trouble. He describes how he spends the majority of his day at work. And even when everybody leaves, he'll still stay there. He'll stay there even till 7, 8, or 9 even. And when he comes home, he'll start mopping up and he'll wash the dishes because he does not want to set her off. He doesn't know where to take his child because all his family is in India. And he's worried what's going to happen the next time. I'd like to turn to the story of another man now. I'll call him Muhammad. Muhammad's family litigation started just a few months shy of 9/11. Muhammad had about, I would say, 4 kids. Okay. 2 boys, 2 girls. Muhammad was an Orthodox Muslim. Yeah, he practices faith. Big deal. After 9/11, though, when I believe his family law proceedings started just prior to 9/11, he was alleged to have been involved in, well, he was alleged to have assaulted his partner. Sort of worked, sort of didn't, okay? But his partner decided on a different tactic. He's a jihadi. See the beard? See the mosque he goes to? He's a jihadi. Remember, just a few months past 9/11, okay? We all know what it was like then. He is trying to indoctrinate the children with jihadi Muslim values. I wasn't. I just told him about the religion. He is estranged from his 4 children from the year 2001 up until the current day. My estimation from what was relayed to me, his family law proceedings officially ended sometime in 2012 or 2013. but he has not seen his kids. Only twice has it happened where he has. Many years after the initial family law proceedings, and I think it's funny how kids go so quick, right? The amount of time that all of us start to get gray and our backs start to go like this, kids go from this to this. So his kids grew up. And one day his daughter called him, out of the blue, his youngest, who's now a teenager. Dad, I'd like to meet you. Man is overjoyed. My God, my daughter, she's calling me. Yes, where would you like to meet? Meet me at high school. Meet me at the high school now. Give me directions. I'll meet you there. Very excited. This is the moment he's been waiting for. All these years. Okay? No more of hanging around the parking lot, watching them from far. Okay? Which so many men and fathers who have been alienated report doing. Sitting in parking lots, far away, just to get a glimpse of their children. No, this was the real deal, people. He's going to see his daughter. He goes to the high school. He's standing outside, and suddenly he thinks of something. I don't know what my kid looks like. I don't know what my daughter looks like. How surreal. A group of teenagers come out and he's looking at them. I don't know which one's which. One finally comes up. Dad, it's me. He's overjoyed. They hug. They talk. It turns out she's contacting him because she wants some money. The end of the meeting concludes with her asking for money. He's sort of upset. But even then, he's still happy she called. He says, okay, fine. He gives her some money. And doesn't hear from her again. A few years after, one of his sons, who is older now, calls him as well. This man in the interim basically gave up on his kids, realized he had no kids. So distraught, said, you know what? The smart thing to do would be to make my final arrangements on my own. I'm going to get a will. I'm going to get a plot. I'm going to get the gravestone ready, so that when my time comes, I know my kids aren't going to bury me. So somebody else will have to do it. He makes his own funeral arrangements. I think he's only in his late 40s, early 50s. It's a call from his son. Surprised. Hello, how are you? Hello, Dad. How are you? Good. What's going on? Not much. Come over, let's talk. Okay. Again, he's overjoyed. Son comes over. Chit-chat for a few minutes. Dad, let me ask you something. Have you made preparations for your will? Yeah, why? Because whatever you want to leave me in the will, give it to me now. I don't need to wait. You don't need to wait for me to die? Just give it to me now. Remember, this man hasn't seen his son in probably a decade. He's distraught. He's upset. He's depressed. That's it. He's given up. An overwhelming number of the men that have come to our center, men from different minority backgrounds, who have reported challenging access to their children, or in the most distraught of cases, parental alienation, many of these men have said that they have contemplated suicide. That going through life without their children is extremely difficult for them. Some have mentioned how they have gone through life having to effectively think their children are dead, because that's the only way they can cope. But they're reminded when they go to their sister's house or to their brother's house, especially with, I'll pick the example of South Asians, where family and extended family often hang out together, where the in-laws that you once had are truly family to you, and how that becomes toxic when the marriage breaks apart. I hope I'm not tiring you. I'll give you a few more stories. This is the story of who I'll call Mr. Sharma, a man from India as well. Mr. Sharma was alleged also to have assaulted his wife. CAS got involved. Mr. Sharma was arrested and bail conditions were placed. Mr. Sharma had 3 kids. There's a consistent pattern I've mentioned in many of these situations where often the spouse will call the other. It's okay, come home, we can be a family again. Many of these men are counseled by their criminal lawyers. Look, buddy, don't respond to the text message. Okay? Don't call back. Don't reply to the email. It's not as easy when your potential whole life could be right there and you could have it all again. When it's so easy that evening to just sit down and have a family dinner again, why not just give it one more shot? And that's what Mr. Sharma did. Well, Mr. Sharma did this many times. In about 2 or 3 years, Mr. Sharma reached his bail conditions probably about 3 to 4, maybe even 5 times. He was repeatedly sent back to jail. He must have spent those 2 years mostly in jail. And every time his lawyer came to meet him, his lawyer would yell at him, "What's wrong with you?" And the man would start to cry. "I'm just doing it because I want to see my kids, man. I just want to see my kids. But look what it's doing to you. I just want to see my kids. And I'll do it again." That was what was shocking. He'd do it again. And he did. In the end, he was left with supervised access, which if people aren't familiar with, I describe as like jail. Okay? I want to see your kid in a facility. There's all these people who will tell you, "Don't worry, just act totally normal." It's like they're watching from those FBI silver screens behind the scene. A number of men have mentioned how supervised access facilities have criticized or scrutinized them for simply hugging their children or kissing their children on the cheek. And at the end, that's all that Mr. Sharma was left with. Was supervised access about 2 hours a month.
Rehan, can I suggest we take a short break?
I'm pretty much close to finishing.
I just want to offer people access to drinks that a lot of people quite want. I apologize for that.
What time is it right now?
Buddy.
I'm just going to wrap this up. I have a few more things to say.
Was Mr. Sharma still stuck in jail?
No, he got out for that one.
Oh, he got out.
And his whole family showed up at the hearing. His 3 brothers, his 2 sisters, his mom, and his dad. This discrimination that is faced by these men is discrimination that is faced by so many who have come to our center here. I don't like to blame, well, maybe sometimes I do. Law enforcement, the Children's Aid Society, reported by these men, have been involved in their cases. In so many of the situations, the men have reported that police officers barely listened to what they had to say. In some situations, the wives wholly admitted to attacking their husband. In many of the situations, the men reported how Children's Aid Society refused to listen to any of the audio that they had. I'm hoping that here at Cafe, that we're able to bring and promote awareness to these issues, and to remind everyone that these men exist, and that they might be here tonight, and that they might be your colleagues, and that they might be your friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rehan. That was kind of overwhelming, actually, I think is the right word. Those were pretty telling stories. We're going to do Q&A And I apologize that it is so hot and stuffy. I will let you know that our next events, we will be returning to U of T, which I believe is air conditioned. Venues will be larger as well, yeah, even for us.